Catus. Maximus here. This is just a quick review of the full-size Master Mechanic made in USA Torx screwdriver set. These are this is the larger set of this precision ones. Actually, they call these larger ones precision, but after looking online, I ordered these because I had seen these in the store and I liked them, and it turns out they had a larger 5-piece set. It was only 14 bucks. So for both sets, about $25, I'd say go for it. The differences here is, one, they don't have a T27, which in like power tools and stuff, you actually end up running into a T27 pretty often, although it is an odd size. So in the larger set, you get your T10, T15, 20, 25, and then 30. And why many of these sets actually end up, there are some sets that go larger than 30, but the purpose is that T40 and above end up being so much torque that you're not going to be using a hand driver to really work with them. So these are more like service sets, and they're going to be excellent for all the tools that I work with. As far as their fitment, it is all pretty good. You know, whenever I try these on any kind of standard fasteners, they seem to have a real nice tight fit. And for the price, I don't mind that they don't have like a hex shank on them, or may not be the nicest, but they do have acetate handles. And I believe these are made by Pratt Reed, but they do, you know, should like on quality control. We can see this one that there is just some excess carbon on the shank when they pushed it in there, so it kind of darkened the plastic, which isn't, you know, that didn't happen on any of these other screwdrivers, but it is something to note. Another thing to note is kind of interesting is on the shorter handle ones, the T10 and the T15 here, is, you know, on these precision ones, on the T9, they have this little depressed area. And I guess they figure on T10 and larger, you're going to be putting maybe a little more pressure on the screwdriver to hold it in there. And so they made it a rounded edge, but they had this undercut. And I actually would have thought for consistency, it would have been nice if they would have continued the undercut. So when you get this whole 10-piece set, if you do, that it just looks a little more consistent. The other thing that I was noticing is like on these small ones, the T5 through T7, they did this nice thing where they reduced the diameter a little further down, just so it'll fit in a little bit tighter spaces. And it would have been nice if on these larger ones they would have continued that trend. Although I kind of understand this once again is because on these larger sizes, having just a little bit thicker shank without that extra tapered section really isn't such a big deal. One thing I also do like is at least all the shank diameters, and they have to be, to cut the little teeth for the Torx, you have to have at least a minimum diameter. And by kind of forcing that issue there, you know, due to the manufacturing requirements, is what I'm trying to say, you always get a shank that's nice and thick relative to the Torx size that you're driving. So definitely don't notice any kind of twisting or rubber banding when you're using even these larger ones. I was working with this 25, just trying to use a heavy-duty wood screw, and it really just felt just like any other screwdriver. So definitely at least some decent quality steel in there. That isn't some mild steel that you're feeling twisting up. And I guess if we take, here's the largest one so we can get a little bit better look at the tip, just because it's more easier to see. And it does have some pretty good machining. I've noticed on these, they don't put much of a chamfer on the tip, but I don't mind that when it comes to Torx, because the little sharp corners just bite a little deeper into the screw, and as you use it, it'll kind of naturally wear into the shape, which is just has a little bit of radiuses right at the bottom of each of those spines. Here we go with them all lined up. If I would have known, I would have not done a double review, but just wanted to point out some of the differences with the larger size. And they are all 3-inch shank, except for the T30, which is a 4-inch, or I should say 3-inch stem, and then a 4-inch stem on the T30. The T20 and the T25 have increased handle sizes, so you can kind of see that there is a natural progression. Now you can see the natural progression a little bit better. I think that they did a kind of a nice job there, where each screwdriver is just a little bit larger proportionally for the size of Torx that you're driving. So I think it's a nice little set, and it's not real easy to find American-made stuff in hardware stores like these Torx drivers. So I'm kind of glad that True Value's been offering them. And just wanted to do a little update on the larger size ones. I think this is actually going to be a set that I use quite often. And I always mention in every one of these videos, one of the distinct advantages, even versus Phillips or other drives, you can do it with hex drives, of course. But with Torx, if you use these a lot and you end up wearing out or even stripping out the tip, just the way even these are machined, you usually have enough space to grind it down to get a new tip at least once or twice. And so that's one of them, you know, you can even use a file. So I've always liked that because I know if I have a tough situation where I do accidentally strip it, maybe I'm just not able to get on the fastener properly, that it isn't just an immediately a throwaway item. At least I can grind that off and get some more use out of it. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And I hope everybody's staying healthy and safe out there. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.